Hello everyone and welcome to the December First Friday Demonstration Day here at Sweet Stitches Quilt Shop. I'm Joan and today our theme is going to be cut, sew, press, repeat. And so sometimes I take inspiration from a pattern that I'm working on for the projects that I show here. Today it's a little bit different. We do have a pattern here in the shop that has this mantra on it, which you see on t-shirts and coffee mugs these days for quilters. But this one is by Tied with a Ribbon, and it's called Cut, Sew, Press, Repeat, because that's what we do as quilters, right? And so I'm going to show you different tips today on cutting, sewing, pressing, because I haven't had a whole lot of time to work on projects. And I did get one project done in our sweet retreat day here at the shop, and I want to share that with you first before we get into the cutting and the sewing part of the show here. So let me start with that. And so this is a baby quilt that I'm working on, and you saw it last time in squares because I was talking about how to do the applique and to show you the different animals that are in it. It turned out really cute. It has two sashings in it that create the vine that goes down the middle of the animals. And I added a border to it because I thought that it could use a little bit more green, and because it is a jungle. And it turned out really cute, and I'm looking forward to quilting this one up. I'm thinking leaves on this one for the quilting. So this one's made all out of batiks here at the shop, but you can make it out of any colors that you want to use for the baby quilt that you're working on. So this is called Jungle Babies, and it's by Jennifer Jangles, and it's a pattern we have here in the shop. You can see on the back side where I cut away my stabilizer, because that gives you the best stitches when you're doing machine applique. So the quilt that inspired today's segment is Vintage Lace, and this is by Lo and Behold Stitchery. It's a really pretty pattern, and this kind of like a modern design. It can have lots of different looks depending on what colors you use in the quilt. And so when I was looking at it, I was looking at the name, and I had just gotten in a line from Moda, from Ruby Star Society, and it all had beiges and creams in it, and I thought that would be really pretty to do a quilt called Vintage Lace in kind of vintage lace kind of colors. So I chose my colors, and I decided to make the bedsides quilt, which is really big. It's 108 by 108, so it'll fit queen beds. But there's really great directions in here, and I followed some of them, but some of them I decided to use tools that I have here in the shop that I tend to like better. And you can do that with different patterns. You don't always have to follow exactly how they say how to make it. If you just take some time and think about what's a better way to do this and what am I more comfortable at doing. So in the pattern, it also has different color choices that you could do, and I'm going to show you the quilt at the end. There's different color choices, and I think I want to make this one again, but with a red background and with the white lace on top of it. So I'm thinking that might be next year's Christmas. Let's get started with how to put this together. So what's our first step is cut. And so when we're cutting fabrics, when we cut them for you here off the bolt, depending on whether it's a regular cotton fabric or it's a batik, you always want to do one step before you get to the cutting. And that is, well, more than one step, I should say. You want to wash your fabrics if you can. I don't always wash my fabrics because we don't have a washer and dryer here, and we start our quilts, one day we just pick a pattern and we start cutting. But it's always best practice to wash your fabrics because they're going to shrink up and they're going to lose all the sizing and chemicals that are on them when you do wash them up. And they're going to shrink up a little bit, and so they'll shrink less when you go to wash a quilt for the first time. And so wash if you can. If you can't wash or you don't want to wash, the one thing that you should always do is take some starch, like Best Press here, or water in a spray bottle. I don't like steam in my irons. I think it lessens the life of the iron, and I hate when the rust water spills out of the iron and ruins your fabric, because it always happens when it is on white fabric that you're ironing. You want to really spray your fabric on the right side of the fabric, and I do this the same with every fabric that I do, whether it is a cotton fabric, a quilter cotton fabric, or if it's a batik fabric. I do this every time. I will spritz it, get it nice and wet, let it sit for a couple minutes and let that water kind of soak into the fibers a little bit. And so by the time I get done cutting my last fabric in the group of fabrics that I'm going to put together in a quilt, the first one's going to be ready to press. And so when I go to press, I want to turn the fabric upside down, and I want to press on the wrong side. And the reason you do this is that you sprayed the front side, and when you lay it down and you press on the back side, it forces the water vapors to come up through the fibers of the fabric. And so you get a better press, you get more wrinkles out, and the starch is going to help it lay nice and smooth. If you press on the side that you just sprayed, those water vapors aren't going to get down into the fibers of the fabric. They're just going to float up into the air and evaporate. It's always best to spray the right side with your starch and turn it over and press the back side. That's just my way of doing it, and that's how I teach my beginning quilters to press their fabrics. And it's really important to press those fabrics really well, and especially get out that center fold that is down the middle of the fabric. You want to eliminate that, because the next step is to hang the fabric. And let me grab a piece of fabric here out of the drawer. Nice candy cane fabric. And so let's pretend that I have pressed my fabric. And so I have in the shop here, we really like these little irons. They're called steam fast irons, and you can put water in them if you want to. I don't put water in mine. I use a spray bottle. We have them here at the shop, and I'm telling you, this is one of the best things to have, because when you press your quilt blocks with a larger size iron, a lot of times you can get a lot of distortion because that iron is big and heavy. But if you have a small, tiny iron that you are not pushing very hard on, then you can just press those blocks instead of ironing them and stretching out the fabric. So I guess this would be one of those things that you'd want to put on your Santa list, your list to Santa anyways, whoever he might be. Or buy it for yourself, even better. The other thing that I'm going to recommend is a wool mat. A lot of people are a little shocked by the price of them, but I'm going to tell you they are worth every penny, because they press up quilt blocks beautifully. Have you ever had a quilt block where you have pressed it and all of a sudden it's like wrinkling up on you? It's because you pressed it on a hard surface, like there's not enough cushion on your ironing board, and you actually are seeing the seams coming through the fabric. So having something that's cushiony, that has a little give to it, and something like a wool mat that holds heat well, it really gives your quilt blocks a really great press. And so I use my wool mat as often as I can, for whether I'm pressing up fabrics or whether I'm pressing up quilt blocks. So another great item for Santa to get you for Christmas if you don't already have one. And I prefer this brand. This is the Gypsy Quilter wool mat. Not all wool mats are created equal. Don't buy those cheap ones online that they'll end up smelling like it's outdoor barn smell, and they also can scorch. And I have had this one in the shop for the longest time, and it has had all different kinds of quilters use it, and the one I have at home is the same. same brand. And I don't have any scorching marks on them. They don't have a smell to them. And they really hold up really well over time. The only thing is that when you have a wool mat like this, you want to make sure that you have it on a surface, maybe something under it, that you don't want to put it on your good dining room table or anything like that when you're pressing on it. But I could press it right here on this Formica countertop and just sit here and press, and it's not going to damage the Formica countertop underneath. And when you use a wool mat, you never use steam. Another good reason not to use steam. And so once we do that and it's all nice and pressed and we've pressed out the fold here, we're going to hang it. And we want to hang our piece by putting our fingers in between the two layers, and we want to bring salvages together, and we want to move it back and forth until it hangs straight. This is a very important step because this means when it hangs straight that the grain lines are lining up. And so when you cut, you're not going to get any hills or valleys in your strips. So very important to do, and you want to do this every time before you start a project and before you start cutting on your fabrics. So, cutting fabrics. Let me move this ironing pad out of the way. And so in this quilt that I made, it called for making half square triangles, and there were 320 half square triangles in this quilt that I made. It was nice though because they were 5-inch half square triangles. And so in the pattern it calls for taking 11.5-inch squares and putting them right sides together, and then drawing lines on it like this, where you're doing 2 diagonals and then 2 down the center, both horizontally and vertically. And then you're going to sew on the diagonals, and then you're going to cut on the drawn lines to cut them apart. And this is a great method and all, but for me, drawing the line and then sewing and then cutting them apart and then squaring them up, because a lot of times when you do the drawn line method and you don't sew perfectly, not all of them come out to be the same size. And usually in a pattern they'll tell you to make them a little bit bigger than what they need to be, so that you can just square them up. And I don't want to have to go back and square up 320 quilt blocks. So instead, of course, you all know that I'm a really big fan of the folded corner clipper ruler. I've gotten really good at saying it, but it's a great ruler because I knew that I needed 5-inch half square triangles here in for this quilt. And I know that my smaller folded corner clipper ruler goes to 5 inches, so it's the perfect size for doing this quilt. So what I did, instead of cutting all of these squares and then marking them, I cut 5-inch strips by width of fabric, and then I put them right sides together, the two colors that need to go together. And it's very well laid out in the pattern as far as telling you how many of what color you need to have for how many half square triangles that you need for the quilt. And so I will I have my cream color and I have my beige color, and I'm going to put them right sides together and line up the edges really nice. And I'm going to cut with my folded corner clipper ruler. And what I'll do is I'll put the ruler on here and I will cut my diagonal cut, and you can see I have one of my triangles here. Then I'm going to turn the ruler upside down, not upside down, but upside down, and I'm going to cut my next cut. So I have all of my half square triangles right sides together, and they're ready to sew. And so since there were 320 of them, what I did is I just took a board or a mat and I would line these up all in a row exactly how I need to have them sewn, and I would sit there next to my sewing machine, and I would just pick them up and I would chain piece them into through the machine. So it went a lot faster than all of this drawing, cutting, pressing kind of thing. So folded corner clipper ruler is really great for half square triangles. It's really great for flying geese. And I am going to show you how my machine does the chain piecing. It has a special feature on the machine that helps me with chain piecing, and we're going to show you how that works. Okay, so here we are at my sewing machine here in the shop, and I'm going to show you the patchwork piecing mode that we have on the M7. It's also on the other computerized sewing machines that we have too. And what this does is it helps you with your chain piecing. And so on here I've selected that I want to do a 1/4 inch straight stitch. And over here I have my pieces all lined up. And these are the half square triangles just like I'm making in the quilt. And you'll notice I have all of the dog ears cut off. That's what's great about the folded corner clipper ruler, is that it's going to cut those off so that they don't get stuck down in your feed dogs. And so I have my blocks lined up here ready to sew. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put down the presser foot, and I am going to sew the length of this, and I'm going to run my stitches off by about 3 or 4 stitches. And what this is doing is it's going to calibrate how many stitches in between pieces that I'm going to feed in here. So on the next one it will actually slow down when it gets towards the end here so that I can feed the next piece in. And I want to go 3 or 4 stitches off, and then I'm going to hit same size. You can pick same size or different size. Say you want to do a different piece next through here, you could choose a different size. But we want to do same size, so I'm going to press OK. And now I'm going to put my next piece, feed my next piece in. And you're going to see that it slows down when it gets down towards the end here. That's the machine doing it. I got my foot on the pedal going. So those of you that are faster at chain piecing will make more out of this than what I have here. But it's a great feature to have on your sewing machine. And as you can see, they got chained and they're all pieced exactly the same amount apart from each other. And so whenever you're chain piecing, you're definitely, when you cut them apart, you cut in the middle of the thread, because that thread is twisted on the end and that's going to help hold that seam together better. You never want to cut right up next to the fabric. The other thing that I didn't mention was what's my stitch length. And so whenever I piece, I like a 1.8. And I know a lot of you are out there groaning going, oh my gosh, that's too small. It is worth it because your fabrics are not going to stretch as much. And especially when you're working with bias fabrics like this, because this is a bias edge, the tighter the stitch, the less it's going to stretch when you're pressing it open to get it ready to put into the quilt. The other thing that you want to do is I like to finger press, take my fingernail and drag it down before I press with a regular sewing machine. And this can stretch this bias a little bit, so you have to be careful with it. I always start in the middle and work my way out to the edge. And you don't use a lot of force, just a little bit of force, just to help that lay down. And then now it's ready to press at your pressing table. And it's a perfect 5-inch half square triangle using the folded corner clipper ruler. Okay, so let's head back out to the table and I can show you the quilt. So we're back from the sewing machine and I just want to lay out the quilt here and show it to you, but I want to hold it up. But before I do, I want to thank Claire here at the shop for helping me cut and press all of these half square triangles. And of course, I want to thank Darla because last minute she helped me get this quilt together today so that we could show it tonight for you. I'm looking forward to having Judy Holden quilt this one up for me. I'm hoping that she finds something lacy to put on our vintage lace quilt. And so let me bring Darla in to help me hold up the quilt. So Darla, can you help me? Sure. So this is the quilt. It's called Vintage Lace, and I decided to use white background with cream and beige colored pieces in the quilt to mimic actual lace.
That's beautiful. Love it. What? You don't like my hat?
Love it.
Okay. Well, you did tell me that you wanted me to talk about some of the projects that we're going to be doing in January and some of the classes. Well, let me show you the first one. So this, yeah, if you can help me out. This, for those of you who actually know the Yellowstone TV show, this is our Beth Dutton quilt. Some of you have asked for this, and so we're going to be teaching this as a class, and we have kits available. So you'll want to check that out in the January calendar. Like my hat?
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I have another one for you. I'm all about the accessories. Don't you love it?
Love it.
Okay, so we're going to be doing this one again. I think that's upside down. Okay, there we go. So this is called Snowflake, and we're going to be teaching this. It actually will be bigger than this. We're going to do the traditional cutting with rotary cutting. So it's actually going to be a lot bigger. It'll be twin size, but you can do this colorway, or you can do it all in one solid color in the background or print, or you can cut it into little squares for the background, and all of them are beautiful, but they're all the same size, except bigger than this one. This is just a fun sample I made. So that's another one.
That's a pretty quilt, and it'll be good for all winter.
Yeah, it will. And then I'm going to be teaching this one again in January. So we have, this one is called Shimmering Snowflake, and this one also is on the January calendar. And anyway, it's super simple. It looks really complicated. It starts with the panel in the middle, and we do have 1 or 2 panels left, and I know that a bunch of you already have the panel, so if you want to take the class and have fun and just have a good time and whip this one up, it's a lot simpler than it looks. So it's fun. That's the Shimmering Snowflake. Okay. I have more.
You do?
I do. You know, I'm all about the accessories, right? Okay. So this is the Song for All Seasons quilt that we're going to be teaching this class again for anyone that has the panel, because the panel has these hems on it, and we cut up the panel and incorporated it into the churches. And so anyone who already has a panel can take the class, and we also have 4 panels left. So if you want to take the class, you can do that.
You can do it in any colors that you want.
Do you know what my accessory is for this one?
What?
Baptist fan.
Only Darla.
I know. Okay, I have more.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so this one is my accessory. This is it okay to put this on your
Oh,
pretty
sure.
quilt?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to hurt it. So this is called the Boxy Tote, and what's really cool about it is that it holds a lot of stuff, or it can hold your Singer featherweight. So it's really great because it's very sturdy, has double layers of foam in there, and holds lots of stuff in there, and
And there's pockets in there too.
lots of pockets inside and out, so you can put a lot of stuff in there. And I use that home deck fabric that we have here that I love.
Yes.
We have 4 different ones. They're beautiful.
Mhm.
And so anyway, that's another one that we're going to be doing. And let's see, what else?
Featherweight quilt.
Hmm?
Featherweight quilt.
Oh yeah, I was good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in addition to this, for those of you who have featherweights, this is great for things other than featherweights too. But if you do own a featherweight, we're starting a featherweight club in January, and it's going to be a monthly meeting, and we're going to do a little education part, and we're going to work on a project. And one of the things, the other accessory part, is that we're going to actually make a little zippy bag for accessories for our featherweights.
In the first class?
In the first class,
Okay.
yeah. And every month it'll be something different.
Mhm.
And I can't wait to see the things that you guys are making with your featherweights.
And it'll be the last Thursday of the month.
Okay, is
Right.
is that what it's going to be every month?
Is it,
The-
it's the day after, or it's the week after Go Play.
Okay, so fourth Thursday.
Fourth Thursday.
Fourth Thursday of the month. All right, yay. So that's that. And I have more.
Okay. I'm glad she does this. I didn't get much done this month.
Okay. All right. So this is the really fun part because I'm going on vacation. And I haven't had one in a long time, and I need it. So anyhow, these are my accessories for my vacation. So that means that on Go Play Day, this month for December, no Go Play Day.
No Go Play Day.
No Go Play Day. But the cool thing
Because
is,
it wouldn't be the same without Darla, so.
oh, not true. Anyway, but thank you for that. But we have big plans for January through December next
Yes.
year. We're going to have a sort of a run for the border, expanding your borders, or whatever else we can think of for borders. We're going to do pieced borders things that you can add to your quilts, just give them a little more sparkle. And they're going to be fun things that we're going to probably use the cube a lot, and whatever size cube you have, we'll make it work. And so and I have all these really great ideas, like we could do the same color background for all of them. And then at the end of the year, we'll have enough borders put together to actually,
Create a quilt.
yes.
Is it time to go on vacation?
That's one of my kids calling. Let's go. So at the end of the year, we'll have enough borders so we can actually make a twin size quilt.
Right. And so
And-
there'll be like horizontal borders just kind
Yeah.
of put together. It'll look really cool.
And if somebody doesn't want to do the same color in the background, would be really cool, is if somebody did like 1 month is a black background and one is a white background, and and then bright colors in there. So there are all kinds of fun ways you can think about it. And it's not just going to be so boring because, oh, another border. This is going to be really cool, and you're going to learn some tricks and techniques. So even if you're kind of new to quilting, it'll
And
help.
Accuquilt.
Yeah, and Accuquilt, and it'll help you get better with your piecing and your techniques. So, and it'll be a lot of fun. I have some really fun things planned. So that's for the new Go Play Day for next
And
year.
that'll start in January, the third Thursday of the month. And then if you can't make every month, we're going to have where you can pick up a pattern It will be $5, just like if you took the class, to get the written pattern. So, you know, maybe you're going on vacation one month and you won't be able to be here for Go Play Day, then you can just come in and pick up your pattern. But you will have to come into the store to pick up your pattern. We're not sending them out in emails or anything like that. So.
Right, right, because we want you here.
We want to see you.
We want to see your face. Yeah, because we miss you guys when you're not here. Okay.
All right, so
I'm
you're off to vacation?
I am. Yay.
Not really, not quite yet.
Not
but
till next week.
Next week.
Okay, I'm out of your way.
Thank you so much, Darla.
My pleasure.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. We want to wish everyone out there a Merry Christmas, and we hope that you get everything you want from Santa this year. Have a good day, everyone. See you next month.